Skydorn Network is proud to present Max Hawthorne's Monsters and Marine Mysteries. Known as the Prince of Paleofiction, Max is an American author, screenwriter, and avocational paleontologist, best known for his award-winning Chronos Rising series of sci-fi thrillers. In addition to being a world record-holding angler, he is the author of the Amazon #1 cryptid research book, Monsters and Marine Mysteries. Join Max now as he continues his investigation into the unknown. Are monsters real? Let's find out.
One of these days, I'm going to be caught doing something I shouldn't be when this happens. But anyway, hi, I am Max Hawthorne, the host of Max Hawthorne's Monsters and Marine Mysteries. Welcome to what's going to be a very exciting show. I have an amazing guest today, Mary Joyce, a Bigfoot researcher and author who has some fascinating tales to tell. Before we get started, however, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on the notifications bell so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. Viewers can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. Last but not least, as most of you know, as the author of the award-winning Chronos Rising series of sci-fi thrillers, I do a lot of research on prehistoric life, especially the aquatic kind, and I have an extensive fossil collection. Today, I will be raffling off a trio of Miocene fossils to one lucky winner. That includes a fossil sand tiger tooth, a prehistoric white shark tooth, and a scoot from a prehistoric American alligator, which, by the way, if anybody was aware of it or not, the alligators used to be much bigger then. They grew to 7 meters, which is about 23 feet. To enter, you must post the hashtag Monsters Are Real. That's hashtag Monsters Are Real in the chat. Please note prizes are only awarded to those residing in the U.S. or its territories. Max hates long post office lines and customs forms. Thank you very much. And with that, let me tell you about tonight's guest. Mary Joyce has worked for 2 major metropolitan newspapers, the Orlando Sentinel in Florida as an artist and columnist, and the Oakland Press in Michigan as a Sunday magazine editor and then feature editor. On the side, she's written magazine articles and books. Since 2008, she has been the main researcher and editor for the Skyships Over Cashiers website, which features a wide variety of cutting-edge topics from UFOs to secret underground bases, from Bigfoot to Cherokee Little People. Mary has gone from investigating mob stories in Detroit, don't miss those, to, not her stories, the stuff, never mind, to interviewing people with the highest top secret clearances about clandestine government activities. Some of her most recent books include Spy in the Sky, Secrets and Cover-Ups on Earth and Beyond, Underground Military Bases Hidden in North Carolina Mountains, and the one we will be discussing today, Bigfoot Beyond the Footprints. As a result of her website and books, Mary's been a frequent guest on radio and TV shows, including Coast to Coast AM and the Travel Channel. Thanks to Skype and Zoom, she has also been interviewed on shows in Canada, the United Kingdom, and Australia. Mary's career has included working for a Fortune 100 company, coordinating art and printing for talking children's books. In that capacity, she worked directly with many creative teams, including those at Marvel Comics, Golden Books, Mr. Rogers, Bernstein Bears, and Steven Spielberg's artist on an E.T. book. Mary, welcome to Monsters and Marine Mysteries, and thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
We're happy to have you. I'm very excited about the show. Before we go into the first sighting, I'm always curious what gets Bigfoot researchers embroiled in what's often a lifetime passion for researching these giant secretive creatures. So what would you say it was that first got you into the fold, so to speak?
I was doing research for the Skyships Over Cashiers website, which is the one I edit and do research for. And we started out doing stuff about UFOs. Well, the UFOs in Western North Carolina over the mountains they're in the same area that we have Bigfoot, Cherokee Little People, underground bases. It's quite a very interesting hotspot. And for those of us who easily get bored, it's kind of fun to have a lot of different topics to explore.
Absolutely. I can certainly vouch for that. Cool. Okay, so I know we've got a bunch of sightings and a bunch of matching photos and stuff to go with them. So I guess my question is, of the four that we're going to focus on or try to, which one would you like to start with? The Valley of the
Probably,
Bigfoot?
probably the Valley of the Bigfoot. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let me wrangle some of that stuff here. And so how would you like to begin? I mean, give me some background.
Um, People don't want to talk about stuff like this very easily, not normally. And it was through a friend who made a connection with this woman who had Bigfoot on her land. And it gotten to the point where the woman was terrified and she wouldn't talk about it. Well, this mutual friend convinced her finally, after maybe a couple months, to talk to me. And so three of us from the website went to her property. Now, the property is at the top of a ridge. And um, then you,
What state? I'm sorry. What state is it in?
I'm sorry, North Carolina,
Okay, thank you.
the high mountains of North Carolina. And so we take the winding roads and then we get to this private road that's a single lane. It's between two mountain ridges and it follows a creek. And you go about a mile and then it opens up into a bowl shaped valley, totally surrounded by mountains. And there's two houses there, a barn, a pond, and that's pretty much it. And what had happened there was the Bigfoot began to tear up their vehicles and get their fingerprints all over them. And you could see the scratch marks where they finally got into the vehicles. They even managed to turn on the lights one day, but they didn't manage to get everything going. The people quickly learned not to leave keys in the car or leave it unlocked.
Can you imagine a Bigfoot driving a Bigfoot?
That would be really kind of a funny image. But anyhow, the woman kept using the term and that they always stepped it up a notch. So they started out messing with the vehicles. The next step, when they jumped it up a bit, was to try to get into the little house. Now, in my book about the Bigfoot, I've got pictures of this. I've got the pictures of the handprints.
We're going to bring them all up, actually.
Oh, okay.
What do you think brought on, like, how long were they there before this sort of semi-aggressive or exploratory behavior started?
She had always sensed that there was something on her property. It never bothered her. It wasn't a problem. And then one day it became a problem. And in hindsight, she figured out what it was. They had somebody out there at the pond, which is really a dammed up creek. And the person had a jackhammer trying to repair the dam. And suddenly the jackhammer went right down into the hard rock and all the water in the pond went down this hole. That apparently was the cave where the Bigfoot lived. It pissed them off, which is quite understandable. And so all I can say is they were pissed. And she, for example, we'll stick with the little house first. When she was still living in there, she would, on one occasion, left the laundry or in the dryer, and it was spinning. And when she came back, there were big handprints all over the dryer. They apparently were captivated by this turning of the clothes that they could see. And they left. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm going to have Dave start bringing on the images one by one so you can explain them to the viewers and stuff. Can we get number 11, please, Dave? Go ahead, Mary.
Okay, those are handprints on the little house. And, you know, the Bigfoot really didn't know how to open the door because there were, I think it may have been 2 weeks of this kind of stuff going on around the door. And they finally figured out a way to open it. And so this is, some of the mess they left on the front door.
Dave, let's get number 12 up, please. So now this is at the bottom of a door.
That's right, because they were trying every which way to get in.
So obviously, okay. And then is the door that's all torn up, is that from the same house?
That's in the bigger house.
Okay.
And what happened was, it's kind of a family commune type of place. And this woman and her 3 children, who were all older, lived in the little house. Her parents used to live in the larger house. They no longer were there. So when things got bad in the little house, Samantha, which is what we called her, Samantha moved to the big house. So the claw marks that you have in one of those photos is where the Bigfoot got up on the second floor, and the teenage daughter had the bedroom locked because of everything that was going on. And the claw marks are just incredible. The Bigfoot had reached underneath the door to try to pull it open. And if you
Dave,
have a
let me
picture of that to show them, that's great.
number 16, please.
That's
Now
some severe breaking and
yeah.
entering.
Now, is that on the inside of the door or on the outside?
That would be like from the bedroom. So the claws are reaching underneath the door and making these scratch marks.
So they were like, wow, I'm surprised they didn't just rip the entire door off the hinges or something. But I
Yeah,
guess
it
they're
does make you
familiar.
wonder. Yeah, I agree.
Well, they probably, since they've been observing houses for many years, and in hers in particular, they see doors being opened and closed, but it probably escaped them initially in terms of how to actually do it. But I mean, you think about it, you've got to have some serious nails to do that kind of damage. It's not just your strength, it's you're stripping the wood. I mean, deep.
Right,
Those are deep
right,
gouges.
right.
What about number 15, Dave?
Okay, that's just handprints like this, grabbing around a door where you could, like open it. So you can see the fingerprints pretty clearly there.
So they went into the smaller house and they started exploring and ransacking things. Was anything taken? Do you know?
No, there was a lot of droppings. She complained that they were always muddy. Of course, their home was now muddy. Um, and she said there was a dropping that always smelled bad, and that dropping would be in the little house. So those, and I also got a sample of Bigfoot hair when I was there. And without stretching it out like this, it was about 6 or 7 inches long, and you could still see the debris caught in the hair.
Dave, let's get 21 up, please.
Now, like I said, that's about 6 or 7 inches from one side to the other. And this is where I learned a painful lesson. I
Mhm.
sent in a sample of this hair for DNA testing, and the
Mhm.
results came back. It was just human. That's later I learned that the paternal side, which is what makes a Bigfoot unique, is only found in like the root of the hair or in the nuclear part of a cell.
Yeah, you
So
got to
if
get
you don't get the root of the hair, if you don't get the root, it's always going to come up human. And that's why some of the, I don't know, determinations are wrong because they don't have enough to work with.
Okay, we got two questions from viewers for you. The first person, Deanna Dean, wants to know what the gap was between the floor and the underside of the bedroom door. Like how much space was there?
You're asking me to remember something I'm not sure I paid that much attention to. I would say like maybe a inch and a half,
Okay.
inch and a
And
half,
then
maybe.
Ray Gardner, who was our very first guest on here, who had a close encounter with a 9-footer, close up and personal, is asking how high up do those claw marks go on the inside of the door, if you have any idea.
Well, that's a bit of a puzzlement because it seems to go up higher than you would think. Um, if I remember, maybe 6 inches. So the claws were able to get under there somehow. Um, that's
Maybe
that's
they,
my guess.
maybe they, when they got in, the door shut and they were panicking, trying to figure out how to get out again and tearing at it from the other side. I mean, that
That we
strikes
don't
me as
know what
possible. Yeah.
we don't know what they went through.
Yeah. But I mean, if you think about the size of one of their hands, you know what I mean? For the
Mhm.
hand to go up that big, the hand would be so thick. If it's just an inch or an inch and a half, I would think they would have splintered or even shattered the bottom of the door to get under there.
You might be right. They may have done it from both sides, but the door was shut when we got there.
It's interesting. Um, let's look at number 13, please, Dave.
This is kind of interesting because on the first floor, the Bigfoot didn't seem to care. They didn't mess things up down there. I have a picture of the piano in the living room and it looks just fine. But they were really fascinated with the bedrooms.
Hmm.
And this is one of her children's bedrooms. And you can just see how they just tore everything out of the drawers and just piled them up and threw them all over the place. Um,
Dave, number 14, please. I'm sorry, Mary.
that's okay.
I'm trying to
That,
follow along with your recount. So is
that's
this the same?
another pile of stuff where they just tore up everything. I do want to explain at this point that it wasn't just adult Bigfoot. First of all, they saw about 3 different size handprints, large, medium, and small. And clearly there were young Bigfoot there. And, I think those are the ones that were entertaining themselves on that second floor, at least to some extent.
That
And
makes sense.
I have pictures of the drawings and scribbles that they did on the wall. And all of them are below the light switch. And the adults would not have crouched down that low to do scribbles like that.
We're going to bring
So
those up.
that makes me think it was the children or the young ones that did that.
I've got some more questions for you. So Ray Gardner, who is, like I said, he's a bigger researcher too, wants to know if the hair was blonde. And he also said, you're spot on with the hair, but it does look different under a microscope, like, cross sections, I guess he's talking about. But he wants to know what color the hair was.
That picture you showed a while ago with the reddish tint, that's correct.
Okay.
That's the way it looked.
Let's get that back up here. Number 21, please, Dave. And that nasty stuff in there is from, like you said, from the swamp or something like that?
Well, it's from being out in the woods,
Yeah.
like pieces of leaves or things of that nature. But I guess I can see why I asked the question. It really didn't look blonde. It looked more red, light reddish color.
Kathy Arnott wants to know if these people had a dog.
Not when I was there, though. Like I told you, there's a dog story to go with this, but we'll save that for a little bit later. Don't let me forget.
I'm a little forgetful, but I'm going to do my darndest because, man of my advance years, they say the memory is the second thing to go. Let's see what we got here. Okay, so we were talking about the creatures apparently got their hands on some writing implements, which, like you said, they had to be the small ones because the height that it was done. So let's look at some what is apparently Bigfoot attempts at drawings. Can we get number 17, please, Dave? And let's leave that up for a few so we can look at it.
Now, it didn't start out that much like that way. What you're showing right now, it's almost like they were learning how to write or had seen writing done.
Okay,
But
so
the first initial drawings weren't anything like this. They were more like
I'm sorry, I meant 17, Dave.
Semicircle with something for eyes.
Let's try 17 first. I got like 3 of them together numerically. I gave him so much stuff. I feel bad now.
Oh,
I was like deluging. Plus, I pulled so many images off your, off your site and stuff like that. There's one of which I'm going to make sure we squeeze in because I want to scare people.
Oh, wow.
17 didn't download because it was password protected.
Wow.
What? Oh, okay. How about 19?
Well,
Okay,
that's a good one. It gives you some variety. The initial drawings would be more like this before we get to like the 2 at the bottom right, where it looks like they're starting to emulate human writing, or there's books and stuff in that room. So they may have been trying to copy stuff, but the earliest drawings look like the other ones.
Was there any samples of artwork or drawings that the children that lived there had done that might have been displayed or anything?
No. But the children were all like older. The teenager and the youngest ones were upper grade school, middle school. So they were clearly way beyond this kind of activity.
Well, I mean, it would seem to me, children of any age like to play, and they play games, and I'm sure that these hominids, they play games just like human children do, etc. And they may take...
Stop right there. I want to tell you a quick story that's not on the list I gave you. There is a woman who has lived with Bigfoot on her land practically all of her life. And I'm giving you the short version of this. And she had a pony, and she would tie it up every night, and every morning the pony would be gone and off in the woods. And its feed bowl would be dragged out into the woods. Its water bucket would be dragged out there. This happened constantly. Well, one day she looked at the pony, and there were little tiny muddy butt prints on the pony. The Bigfoot were taking their kids for pony rides.
Wow.
So if you want to talk about play, I thought that was a good one.
No, yeah. I mean, I would imagine like in their world, they would take like a sharpened piece of antler or stick or something like that, and maybe draw on the soil or on cave walls like primitive man used to, or who knows what. I think given an opportunity to play with something more advanced like paper or and markers or sharpies or anything like that, they would go crazy. You know.
They're
Um,
not dumb. They're not dumb. So they need to be entertained too.
Well, the one I saw was pretty slick because when he realized he was being watched, he got out of there and like a shot underwater, and he hid himself under lily pads and all this other stuff like that. So, let's see what we got here. Okay, this one's going to be a little more interesting. Let's get number. So, should we go back to that one where you said they were trying to emulate writing a little bit first? You want to look at
Unless
that?
you want to show it that, that's that one. And that
Um,
seemed to, there seemed to be an evolution before they got to this point.
Fascinating. And if that's accurate and the creatures are able to duplicate stuff that they've seen, like samples of and stuff like that, that's very impressive. I mean, indicative of extreme intelligence.
Right.
So, I mean, I've always read that our gifts are creative and theirs have more to do with nature, but that doesn't mean that you're an idiot. Can we get number 20, please? And let's leave that on there for a minute. All right, what are we looking at here? Talk to me.
We're looking at the bathroom on the second floor, and they had, squeezed everything out of the toothpaste. They had messed around with the toothbrush, totally made a mess of the place. Also tore up the toilet. And we joke to this day that we're really happy that they didn't know what to do with the toilet, though it would have made a great sample, I guess.
Let me get number 1, please, Dave, because the timing couldn't be better. And you'll have to give us the background because this is from your site. It's one of the earlier ones I sent you like a few days ago.
This is kind of nice where I'm also surprised along with your audience with what we're going to see.
It should be Mary Joyce 1 is the file.
1 and 2 and 17 were all password protected.
I'm going to try and get them down now and see if I can get it fixed.
I'm going to send it to you on Facebook somehow. And if that helps, and see if that makes a difference. Let's see, Godfather, where are you? There. All right, see if that helps. Technical difficulties, my gosh. So the toilet, you said it was broken? I see something on the wall.
Oh, that's probably bad wallpaper.
Oh, okay.
Wallpaper
So
that neither you nor I would choose, I guess.
they must have had a blast messing around with the toothpaste and stuff like that, But I can't imagine they figured out that it was for brushing your teeth or whatnot. I wonder if
I
they
wouldn't
tasted
think
it.
so.
Yeah, they probably tasted it with like and stuff. But I wonder if they drank out of the toilet. Yeah, I've seen like what was that movie where the guy was like, primitive people find a toilet. They're like, fresh water, like this. Type of stuff. Any luck, Dave? I certainly didn't password protect anything. I know some of the files I was having a hard time fighting with them when I was like saving them and stuff.
We're working on it here.
Okay.
I've got 1 and 2 fixed. I'm trying to do 17 in the background right now.
Okay. Let me just have 1 because it goes with the toilet. All right. There we go, people. Now this is the scariest Bigfoot picture you will ever see. Mary Joyce, give me the background on that.
Okay, this is Bigfoot poop, and that's about 36 inches long. And it is a casting of the actual poop that Dr. Matthew Johnson found out in Oregon. And he's been a Bigfoot researcher for years. And they found this on a logging road. And it was between 2 giant footprints that were about, I think they said 26 inches apart. So clearly the Bigfoot had squatted to create this monster of a poop.
3 feet
Long.
long.
Yes.
Okay. Now, can you imagine an angry Sasquatch coming by your house and leaving something the size of a diamondback rattlesnake? Oh my
Isn't
God.
it? I know.
We're
It's really
stepping
something.
on it in the woods. Oh, okay. Well, there you have it. Our timing was off a little bit. It would have gone great with the toilet.
If we'd gone right into it. So now we really
No
see
pun
why
intended.
they're glad they didn't use it.
Yes. Can you? Oof. Yeah, you'd have to definitely have to sell the house after that. All right, let's see where we're at in terms of. I think there's one last one. No, 2 more. I think. Let me see. No, not one more. So I think you explained how eventually they kind of made peace with them. Did you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I
Like
think it's kind of important. The woman eventually moved from the little house to the big house, and then she moved off the property. But she kept returning to check everything out. But she had a bodyguard who had a gun, and neither one of them, neither the bodyguard nor she, wanted to be on the land without his gun there. So that shows you the degree of the fear. It also helps show you how remarkably transformative this whole thing became, because once Samantha figured out that the Bigfoot were upset because their cave had been destroyed, she communicated the way Bigfoot communicate with humans, which is telepathic. And she just let them know that they didn't intend to do that, that was a mistake. They didn't intend to do their, mess up their home. After she did that, I don't know the time frame on that, but there was like this basket. Literally, it was like a piece of burlap that had just been bunched together, and it had a number of shiny objects in it, and it was left at her front door. After
Dave,
that,
I'm sorry. Number
that's
22,
okay.
please. Is that it?
And yes, it is, and that was left at her front door, and it proved to be a peace offering because they stopped having troubles after that.
That's awesome. That really is awesome. Oh, let me just interject real quick for everybody. Dave, can we get Boris the Bigfoot up real quick for a second? I just threw this at him an hour or 2 ago, so hopefully.
Boy, he has to be on his toes to work for you.
Well, I'm trying to, get okay, so this is to remind everybody, this is Boris the Bigfoot. Okay, my little girl named him, so that's Boris. So remember, if you want to enter the drawing to win those 3 free fossils, you got to put the hashtag monsters are real in it for everybody. Okay, all right. Thank you, Boris. Let us continue. Okay, so that's a wonderful story, and that really is something to see. I mean, all of that photographic evidence and everything that goes with it. Those claw marks are pretty scary too, though. Okay,
so you can see why they wanted the gun. I do want to add one more thing before we move on, and that is the second time I went back there. Again, I had 2 other people with me, and as we pull up to the big house to meet with Samantha and the bodyguard, there was a dog that looked like what they call a Pharaoh's hound. And it was to our left. I was driving, still in the car. And this thing came from our left, went in front of us, and vanished. I mean, it just poofed in front of our eyes. And there were 2 of us that saw that. So I've never really mentioned that because I don't like to go off into, woo-woo land with people. But that really happened.
Wow. I mean, I'm not discounting it because the things I've seen, people are like, "Yeah, you're smoking something." I'm like, I wish I was. But when you say a Pharaoh's hound, is that one of those lean, sort of like a greyhound, but a little more muscular with the pointy noses and the?
Right, they're black and they have the pointed ears. That's a pretty good description you've given.
Cool. Okay, so from there, which of the next accounts would you like to touch on? The home base, the adventure?
The home base, because that's the area where the bodyguard lives. And the bodyguard was about 8 to 10 minutes away from Samantha's house. His name is Jack. And after he had been serving as a bodyguard at her place, he began to have Bigfoot he noticed that Bigfoot were on his property. So one day he took me out there. And again, it's one of these single lane dirt roads at the top of a ridge. And then we went into the woods. He's leading the way. He's got a machete in his hand. And at first I thought, is that for self-defense? That was my first reaction. He actually used it as a way to cut a path for us to get to a cave where he knew the Bigfoot frequented. And we weren't into the woods very far when we heard this sound that was like a bird, but wasn't a bird.
Mhm.
And then off in the distance where we were headed, it was like there was an answer of another bird, same kind of not quite a bird sound. And then everything got quiet. And to this day, I feel like one Bigfoot was warning other Bigfoot that the white people were headed their way. And there were 2 large footprints right there where we heard the first bird sound. And the cave was really, or is really big. It's approximately 8 feet across, 5 feet tall. It's a thick, you got a picture of it?
We're going to pull it up in one second, but I just want to, okay. Well,
That's another one. That's another Bigfoot cave, but not the one I'm describing.
I need, actually, you said this is the home base thing, right? So that should be number
Yeah.
23. I think he had the right one. Maybe I'm wrong.
He does. He's got pictures from the home base, and that is a used cave that they use all the time. I actually am referring to a story. Let's see, what's my title here? I have to go back over. Adventure on Way to Bigfoot Cave. That's the one where the cave was that I was describing.
Okay. I think I have I have those also. Before who was it? Kathy Arnott was asking, do you think, she's referring to the Egyptian dog, do you think that was a ghost or a guardian?
The person who was with me felt it was like a guardian of the place. It was very solid looking. I mean, it had no ghostly quality to it at all, but it just disappeared.
Dave, let's go with number 8, please. And then after a minute or two, we'll do 9, and then a minute or two, we'll do 10. This way, Mary can explain each of them. This is on the way to that home base.
This is on the way, and he told me that this tree had fallen right behind him on another occasion. He was getting too close to the cave on a different time, and he could hear the Bigfoot, and they pushed this down right behind him as if to scare him and say, stay out of here. So that was still over the path when he took me there.
I'd have left them something that would have rivaled that 36-inch monster. Just kidding. But I'd be out of there.
It would be scary. All right, this is the cave I was describing, and I've got 2 shots of it. That's one of them, and the other one you can see it a little bit more fully. That stone is pretty thick on the top of it. It's like almost like a shelf.
Like a slab.
A slab, thank you. And it's, like I said, the entrance is about 8 by 5. I apologize. I was not brave enough to go in there. I could not even see the back of it. So sometimes I only go as far as my camera will let me go. And I wondered if this stick that was in front of it was used as like an early warning signal. Like if somebody knocked that over, they would hear it coming. Because it seems to have been placed there.
Yeah. Dave, let me get 10. That's the one she's talking about.
That's the cave. Now, I don't know about you, but I didn't have the courage to go in there.
Yeah, that's like something from Aliens. You need some space marines to go in there.
And even if it weren't Bigfoot, there's panther up there and there's bears up there, and I don't want to meet any of them in a dark cave.
Yeah, where they have nowhere to go.
Right.
Cool stuff. Very nice. Okay, so back to the home base thing. So tell us some more about that and about the wildlife that was there, because you mentioned that the wildlife seems to be different there than in other places.
Samantha and Jack described that land as having a different feel to it. There was a different energy. Their conclusion, I have no way of personally backing this up, they felt like that was the home base and there were older, more mature Bigfoot that lived on that land. They felt like the ones on Samantha's land were younger and more immature and, more curious and more troublesome. And that's true of all species. The teenagers are the ones that are most likely to cause aggravation. Let's see, what else can I tell you about that story? Everything's bigger there. Everything. They said that the panthers were bigger there. The one that stuck in my head was the owls. And this kind of gets into a whole nother area. They said one night there were 5 or 6 owls just doing swoops around that area, and they were huge. The wingspan was about 8 feet across, which indeed is huge.
Yeah,
And
big owl.
because of this experience, I read a book I wouldn't have read otherwise. I think it was called The Messenger. And this man who wrote the book, whose name I can't think of right now, felt that the owl was used as like a memory replacement for people who had been abducted. That is a possibility for 2 reasons. One, Samantha had seen what she called a white little alien dude on her land. Surprisingly, she said it was carrying 2 brown babies. So there might be an interaction with the Bigfoot and the aliens. That's one thing. She also, well, we just have lots of UFOs in that area. So the connection might be quite real. But this man gave example after example of how owls are used to camouflage a memory of an abduction. And Jack said he had a real bright light and shined it right at the eyes of one of these. And he said they were black and they didn't reflect. And he's never seen anything like that with an animal. And he said it was really kind of weird.
That is pretty creepy. Carol Garcia was remarking, she said the opening to the cave looks small. Do you know how big the opening to the cave is?
Right. It's about the one I'm talking about, not the one where you can see the leaves on the bottom, but where it's just dark. That's about 8 feet across and 5 feet tall.
Okay. Well, that's plenty of room for a large animal to get in there. I mean,
Right.
obviously, they'd have to stoop down or something like that. But still, I mean, yeah, a Kodiak bear could get in there with no problem.
Right.
So, but cool. Awesome. So let me see where we're at here. I think we've covered a lot of this stuff, which means we're going to have to venture into unmarked territory.
Well, the last thing I gave you on that list was a different cave entrance. And that's, even though it's on a remote road, it's more accessible. And the title of it was Photo of Bigfoot Cave Entrance in Rocky Cliff. And this particular cave was way up a steep slope. You would have to have climbing gear to get up there. And again, I used my camera to zoom in on it. But that is an active place because there's a path through the laurels going from that cave through down and through the laurel bushes across a single lane dirt road. And we constantly were finding footprints in that area. They were consistently 16 inches in length, no matter when we measured them. And they were always headed toward a pond and an apple tree that were on the other side of the road. Anybody who has done any research on Bigfoot knows that they love apples. So we've gotten, and one lady was driving home one night and she saw one actually cross the road there. Somebody else was, you don't drive fast on this road. Another woman had her windows down, and when she drove past this path, she could smell the smell of the Bigfoot. So there's been a lot of testimony that helps support this. Because of the activity in that area, we started doing experiments to see what the Bigfoot like to eat. And if you want to go off in that direction, we can do that too.
Well, let's get some of the. I thought I had ran out of goodies for everybody, but you get so much. You have so much great stuff. Let's pull up some tracks because I mean they're called Bigfoot for a reason. How about Dave number 4 first? That's the older batch. I'm sorry. Please tell me that it's not password protected. Please.
Is that part of your security system?
I don't think so. I think it's some of the stuff from the site. Your site had stuff in there that it was like it wouldn't let me save certain things, and then I had to like do snippet
You're
cuts
kidding me.
instead.
I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
and then I wanted to enlarge some of the photos so they would show up bigger on the screen. And they was fighting with me about that. And
Hmm.
you're not authorized. And I'm like,
Wow.
no, not that. That's Ray Gardner's. I'm sorry. Um, are you
What do
able to
we?
hold on, Dave? Are you able to do? Let me private message him, private chat. Um, can we do two at a time? If he can, Dave, if you can, the one you just had, and then either number Mary Joyce 2 or Mary Joyce 3. Like if you put Ray's up, the one you just had, and then one of Mary Joyce's in the snow, I would love to get those up there together. Two of those. Not that one. No, no, no. Either 2 or 3. That's number 6. Yeah, I don't.
That one photo of the footprint in the snow is evidence that all Bigfoot don't have the same number of toes.
That's definitely true. Okay, that's one. Now, can you put Ray's next to that? Are we able to do 2 side by side? The dark one, the night shot in the snow. So while he's trying
If
to,
you
I don't.
needed them side by side, I would have had to edit and paste them
Oh,
side by
okay,
side,
no
and
problem.
then I'd have to do an overlay.
No problem. I'm sorry. So Mary, tell us about this one, and then I'll have Ray's pull up. Pull
Okay, I'm trying to remember. I don't remember all the details on this. It seems like this was taken by a man in northern, I think it was Minnesota, and he taught at a school or college up there, and he just snapped these pictures of these humongous
Yeah,
footprints going on for quite a distance. So we don't have just a solitary one. You can see the action, which I think is kind of neat.
yeah, there's huge. How about Mary Joyce number 3, Dave? Would that be the same guy, like the same
Yes,
area?
that's the same.
Okay. I wish I thought about doing a side by side and sending him, like asking it earlier. Can you throw Ray's up there now? I think Mary will get a kick out of this. So now this is Ray Gardner, who is a researcher like yourself, and this is on a research expedition they were doing, obviously in the snow, and his footprints are on the left. So when they went out looking for where one of these things, was, the footprints on the right, which are from a large Sasquatch, weren't there. And when they came back later and they passed by that area and saw his tracks, this thing had been following them.
Oh,
So they were
wow.
looking for it, and it was following them. At most 20 minutes back,
Wow.
possibly a much sooner, but a
Wow.
maximum of 20 minutes had passed. Yeah, and those steps were 5 feet apart, and that's just not running; that's just walking. So yeah,
Right.
it was really cool stuff. I was hoping to do a comparison, but it shows you, I mean, the size and stealthiness of these creatures. Dave, how about number? Well, let's throw 6 back up here, which she was talking about the the toes and stuff. It's like in Frost. Let's leave
Yeah,
that up.
it looks like this poor thing's deformed. I mean, that doesn't even look normal with the toes. And that does happen sometimes. But we have had prints that have 6 toes, 5 toes, 4 toes. I've never seen one, but some that are just 3 toes. So they're not all the same. And I didn't realize that. Most of the ones here, or all of the ones that I have seen here, they have the same number of toes that you and I have.
So, do you attribute that to injury, like maybe from a trap, like not a bear trap, but
This
trap?
one right here looks like it could be either where it's a deformity where it's been born with a problem, or it's been injured. A normal footprint does not look like that.
That's a huge track. I mean,
True.
if that's one track.
That's one footprint.
Okay, now the width on that is astonishing. I mean, that I'm going to assume is that a man's boot there? Do you know? You have any idea? I mean, if
Um,
that boot is 4 inches wide, like mine would be easily, that track is 8 inches across. I mean, that's incredible.
it's a huge
width.
footprint.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've heard some people think there's some inbreeding going on and such.
Well, these are in different areas. Like this one was from out in the Western Mountains. The footprints that we've gotten around here are the typical 5 toes. And the ones that are 6 toes are also out in the West. I haven't seen those here.
That's kind of weird. Phoenix was saying the footprints on Ray's pick don't look as deep as the others. I looked at those, Phoenix, and it looks to me like this thing was moving on tiptoe. You see like the deeper section where the ball of the foot goes, and then the heel is more shallow, which, I would assume is because this thing was, creeping up on people and stuff like that. But obviously we could get Ray to comment on that too, but let me see here. I think our last one, I'll be sad running out of images though. No, wait, I got 2 more. Okay, so let's do number 5, please, Dave.
Now that, if I remember right, that's one from North Carolina. And that one has all of its toes. And again, you've got a human foot there, so you can compare it.
And that's a size 9 boot. I remember that because I wrote that in notes for the photo. But still, that's still a gigantic foot. Look at the size of this thing.
And there's some unique things about the footprint, and the width to the length. The width is always wider than a human foot, always.
Yeah, I remember I've seen some of them that were the size of a person's, or approximately like 12 inches long for a small one, but the width was substantial because they're just more massive animals. And I think that explains why they're so much more agile. Human beings, we tend to, when we reach certain size limits, our anatomy, our physiology is not designed for agility anymore. You don't see anybody that's 8 feet tall that's typically athletic, agile, etc.
So you don't watch basketball?
You don't have 8 foot tall basketball players. Think about that. I'm talking about people like Don Kohler and Robert Wadlow and stuff. I'm not talking about basketball players that are 6'6", 6'8", stuff like that. When you have basketball players that are 7 feet 7 and change, they're no longer as agile as their slightly smaller.
That's probably true. That's probably true.
Yeah. We just don't have the anatomy. I've read accounts of Bigfoot like moving like ninja, people have said. So people watch them run and they're so quiet sometimes it's like frightening. How can an animal or creature that weighs 600 or 700 pounds move so stealthily?
Have you ever covered how the fingerprints are different with the Bigfoot? Have you ever talked about that on your show?
No, this is only my 3rd episode.
Oh, okay. All right. On a human footprint, you have these swirls or loops. On the Bigfoot prints, they're vertical lines. So the print is totally different than a human print.
Which suggests that the print is designed then to grip tactily, moving laterally like this way, as opposed to ours, which are more for grabbing on and like lifting.
That's a good analysis. You might be right about that.
Captain Picard, sir, is asking the areas where all the stuff happens and stuff, if anyone had put out trail cameras or tried getting drone footage in those areas.
We did take a drone up there, and there was so much interference with the trees because we wanted to see if we can see inside that cave that was up on a cliff, and we couldn't fly the drone in there, or the person we had with us who had the drone didn't have the skill to do it. So that was our only attempt to do that. Samantha, in the original story I told you about, she did set out game cams. She didn't catch the Bigfoot that way, but she caught that little alien dude carrying the 2 little brown babies. So again, that might indicate some kind of relationship with the ETs and the Bigfoot.
Well, now we're going to have her on here, or she's going to have to get you that stuff because we're going to want to see that.
She wouldn't let me put that on the website. I got to see it, but she wouldn't let me put it on. And to this day, she has some kind of fear of ETs. So I'm pretty sure she's been abducted.
Oh, Kathy Arnott is asking, could that be from the knuckles from the hand and the footprint mixed in? Kathy, are you referring to the snow pictures like that Ray took, or one of the other pictures that we just had up? I'm not sure which one you're referring to.
They're not knuckle runners.
Started to fill in. Oh, Ray says Yes, they had that it was. I think he means that it was on tiptoe, and they had started to fill in with the snow. It was cold, snowing, and blowing. So that kind of answers that question then. And yes, and so he answered her, and she answered him, and me, and we're wonderful, cool, awesome. Got some great people here.
And like I said, they do not. Nobody's ever seen them running like a gorilla with the hands or knuckles down to the ground. They run
I've
like this.
I've seen one video, and I have not been able to track it down since then, where like some teenagers outside of a forest, like in some field, were playing, I think, frisbee, and then a Sasquatch estimated at 10 feet in height suddenly burst out of the woods, ran across the uh, field section where they were, and there was more trees on the other side, and they were able to measure it based on it grabbed onto a branch, and when it ran across the clearing, it was doing it gorilla style until it
Really?
got, yeah. And when it first came out, it was standing. Then it ran, boom, 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 boom. When it got there, it stood up, it grabbed the thing, and it walked bipedally in. And I read another account where somebody surprised one. He was fishing over like a creek or something, and there was a rock overhang, and it was apparently under there and resting.
Hmm.
And then it heard him, and he said it wasn't a very large one, maybe 7 feet tall or something like that, but it burst out, and it was running like a gorilla on all fours and making this like whoosh, whoosh, whoosh noise, and
Wow.
really fast. And I think when they accelerate to full speed, which I've heard estimates of 30 miles an hour, I think they switched to quadruped for bursts like that, chasing down
So
prey,
it's
running
like
from,
overdrive,
yeah,
shifting into overdrive.
yeah.
Okay.
We don't have
That's
that.
interesting to know because I haven't heard anybody report that yet.
Oh, I gotta find that video. It was terrifying, the size of the thing. I mean, like, and the kids were all running and screaming and all that. I mean, it was like pixelated from a distance or whatever and stuff like that. But it looked pretty genuine. We got one more, last one, which is number 4. Can we get that bad boy up here?
Oh, yeah, I put that in the book because, or on the website, I don't remember which now, right? Showing the width of the Bigfoot compared to the width of a human foot. And it's a very obvious difference. And
Found
the
it
arch, we never see the arch on the Bigfoot print.
interesting. Yeah, it's a sizable animal. I found a weird track in the woods near me recently, and I have no idea what it is. I mean, yeah, I'm gonna have to do some investigating. Ray is saying that they don't run on all fours; they do the knuckle walking when they're trying to be quiet and approach stealthily. Um, but like I'm telling you, Ray, I saw this video. I saw this thing like woof 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 and stuff, and maybe I don't know. Maybe it's different species though. I mean, at 10 feet, this could be that parent species that you and I were talking about in the green room.
Well, they're different sizes. The ones down in Florida seem to be the smallest. They're called swamp apes down there. We seem to have the medium-sized ones here in Western North Carolina, and the tallest ones seem to be out in the far west, the Rockies.
And I'm also in Canada. I'm gonna have
Yes,
as
yes.
soon as I can, my friend Corey on here, and he got a very closer than he wanted, look at one that was literally 12 feet tall,
Oh, wow,
and it walked right past him. If he'd had a fishing rod, he could have touched it.
wow.
I mean,
That'd
like,
make your heart go fast.
yeah. And he was like he said, its rear end was with the top of his truck, which is a big full size truck,
Right,
6 feet right there. I mean,
right.
like gigantic, but
Wow.
that's going to be epic. But anyway, wow, this is awesome. Okay, so we've only got about 7 minutes left. Can we get Boris back up here, Dave, as a last minute reminder for everybody? I got to mail these fossils out to some lucky winner. Remember, USA only. Hashtag monsters are real. If you haven't entered, here's your chance. Thank you, Boris. Um, so so Mary, where can readers get your books?
First of all, let me give the website because that's the connection for everything. It's called Sky Ships Over Cashers. You know how to spell all the words except cashers, and it's spelled just like a cashier at the grocery store.
Cashiers. Okay.
Cashiers is a mountaintop town here. Um, if you go to Editor's Corner, there is a brief exclamation or description of each of the 5 books that I have. They're all available on Amazon. One is Bigfoot Beyond the Footprints, and that's the one we've been focusing on tonight.
And are those available on Amazon?
Yes, all of them.
Okay, so you guys want to check this stuff out. There's going to be tons of stuff in there, obviously more than we covered here, but it's called Bigfoot Beyond the Footprints.
And we have
Okay.
a whole section just on Bigfoot and ETs. So there's archives. So we have bunches of stories on Bigfoot.
Cool. And your website is one more time.
Skyshipsovercashers.com.
Dave, is there any way we can get that on the screen? Is to add that in there? Okay, he put it over here in the chat so people could see it there. Skyshipsovercashiers.com and Mary Joyce on Amazon, Bigfoot Beyond the Footprints. Awesome. What else would you like to add? We got 5 minutes. It's all yours.
It's all mine. I got so used to you preparing me with all these photos that you took time to put together. Thank you so much.
I'm just a guide.
You're just a guy. Just a guy.
Yes.
So,
Guide. That's it. And a guy.
I've got lots of stories. I'll give you another quick version of one. We had a man who was deputy sheriff down in Florida. He got cancer, and he retired, moved to the mountains, and got a place way out in the mountains. Lived off a logging road. Was doing his own organic farming in an effort to get healthy. One day he's sitting on his porch, and it's again a logging road, very isolated, and he heard like two kids playing in the creek. He couldn't see them, but he could hear them. And he was very puzzled because there are no children anywhere around where he lives. Okay, another time he's on the porch and he looks out, and it's nighttime, and there is a light by his garage where he parked his vehicle. And he saw a family cross the road there, and it was Mama, Papa, and two teenagers. He eventually became friends with the male Bigfoot, and he called him Fred. And Fred would come down to the garden whenever this man was gardening, and the two would communicate telepathically, which is, I think, the only way that humans and Bigfoot can communicate. And the man would share things from his garden with the Bigfoot. And like I said, he called him Fred, and Fred and his family.
And this was an adult male Bigfoot.
Correct.
How big was this adult male Bigfoot?
I don't know. That was an early on story, and I didn't ask enough questions, and I apologize.
I know it's fine. I wonder if the animal, the creature, knew that he was sick. Also, it probably might have felt a little more.
Let me add another story. This is really recent. Again, one of the people who communicates with the Bigfoot, she got COVID really, really, really bad, and she didn't know who she was or where she was. And her husband took her to the hospital. The hospital at that time was so jammed, they had people in the hallways. She didn't require a respirator, so they sent her home because there were no beds and there was nothing they could do for her. But she still was in bad shape. And that night, the Bigfoot were outside her bedroom and her bathroom windows, and they chanted all night long. And she said the next morning she woke up and she did feel better.
Wow, that's awesome. You got a lot of fans out here. Carol Garcia's thanking you for a wonderful evening. This is Mary Fabian from the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Project. Also, Kathy Arnett saying thank you for a great show. Carol Garcia, thank you for a great show this evening. Remember to smile. I do smile.
Maybe they're talking to me. If any of those people or anybody else has good stories they'd like to share on the website, skyshipsovercashers.com, there is a way of connecting with me. It says how to report a sighting, but that's how you get in touch with me, because I would be happy to talk with people, and if they have a good story to share it.
Definitely. You guys heard it. You know where to find her. If there's any questions or you need any additional info, just reach out to us here at Skydoor Entertainment. Dave, you want to do the drawing real quick for our winner for the door prize for today? I think we got a decent number of hashtag monsters are real. Hopefully it's not us again winning. Last time we kept winning the show. The Pennsylvania Bigfoot Project. That's Mary Fabian. Okay. Mary, congratulations. And by the way, I have no control over this. This is all controlled by the system, just so you know. So there's no sleight of hand or anything like that. Mary, you need to send, but just send me yours. I know you're on Facebook. Send me your mailing address, and I'll get those bad boys packaged up and out to you. I say it to everyone at the end of every show I watch. Remember to smile. I do smile, but there's so little teeth left. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to scare anybody. Not as scary as that Bigfoot. Remember the poop, people. Okay, the Bigfoot poop.
And
all
that's
right.
No shit.
Santa's going to leave that in somebody's stocking next year that deserves it, and it's not going to be pretty. Oh. But anyway, I think we're good. Wow. I guess we can close out the show on time for once. Thank you so much, Mary. It was my deepest pleasure. I really enjoyed your company and your stories.
Thank you for sharing the images. I appreciate that too. You take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
I think I'm still on.